My pregnant sister raised her glass at her baby shower and laughed. At least my baby will grow up with a father. Everyone at the table looked at me. Then my 8-year-old son asked one quiet question that made the entire room go silent. My sister Rachel always needed to win. Not arguments. Entire lives. Better grades. Better job. Better house. Better relationship. And after my divorce, she finally believed she had won completely. My ex-husband left when our son Noah was 4. No dramatic affair. No scandal. Just one conversation, 2 suitcases, and a promise to stay involved that slowly disappeared over the next few years. By the time Noah turned 8, phone calls had become birthdays. Birthdays had become excuses. And excuses eventually became silence. Interesting thing about abandonment. Adults discuss it quietly while children carry it loudly. Noah never complained much. He simply stopped asking when his father would visit. Rachel, unfortunately, never developed the same restraint. She was married to her high school sweetheart and expecting her first child. Every family gathering became a celebration of her perfect life. Perfect husband, perfect nursery, perfect future. Her baby shower took place at our parents' house on a warm Saturday afternoon. Pink decorations filled every room, while relatives passed gifts and offered advice Rachel mostly treated like applause. I almost didn't go, but Noah wanted to see his cousins, and my mother insisted family should celebrate together. Interesting advice considering family usually becomes most dangerous when audiences are involved. For most of the afternoon, things remained peaceful. Then someone asked Rachel whether she was nervous about becoming a mother. She laughed and rested her hand on her stomach. Well, at least my baby will have a dad around. Silence. Small at first, then heavier. Because everyone at the table knew exactly where that sentence landed. My mother looked down. My aunt suddenly became fascinated by napkins. And Noah, sitting quietly beside me with a piece of cake in his hand, slowly looked up at his aunt. His eyes were completely confused. Because unlike adults, children don't always recognize cruelty disguised as jokes. Then he asked one simple question. And nobody at the table was prepared for it. Noah looked at Rachel for several seconds before speaking. He wasn't angry. He wasn't upset. Just genuinely confused. Aunt Rachel, he asked softly, did my dad leave because I was bad? The entire room froze. Interesting thing about cruelty. Adults can usually survive it. Children translate it. And sometimes they translate it into the worst possible meaning about themselves. Rachel's smile disappeared instantly. My mother covered her mouth. Across the room, someone quietly set down a coffee cup. Noah still held his piece of cake, waiting for an answer. Because children believe adults mean the things they say. I felt my chest tighten. Immediately. No, sweetheart, I said quickly. You did absolutely nothing wrong. But Noah kept looking at Rachel. Because you said your baby gets a dad. The words landed harder than any argument could have. Rachel shifted uncomfortably in her chair. That isn't what I meant. Interesting response. Because people who use pain as humor often become very concerned about intent once consequences arrive. Noah frowned slightly. Then what did you mean? Nobody helped her. Not our mother. Not her husband. Not the relatives who had laughed politely a few seconds earlier. For the first time all afternoon, Rachel had to hear her own words without adult translation. She looked toward me. I was joking. I almost answered. Almost. But Noah deserved honesty more than she deserved protection. Some jokes hurt people, I said quietly. He nodded slowly, trying to understand. My son had spent 4 years learning how to live without his father. School events, birthdays, Father's Day projects he quietly brought home unfinished. He never asked for sympathy. He simply adjusted himself around an absence he never created. And now, sitting at a decorated baby shower, he was trying to determine whether his father's disappearance somehow made him less worthy than an unborn child. That realization changed the room completely. My father finally spoke. "Rachel, you owe him an apology." She looked genuinely shocked. Interesting reaction from someone who spent years speaking without consequences. "I didn't mean it that way," she said again. But intent wasn't sitting beside me holding a paper plate with shaking hands. My son was— Noah looked down quietly. "I wish my dad stayed," he whispered. And suddenly nobody cared about the presents anymore. Because one little boy had said out loud what adults had spent years pretending wasn't still breaking his heart. Nobody spoke after Noah said that. The baby shower decorations suddenly felt out of place. Pink balloons, gift bags, cake, all of it sitting quietly around a truth nobody wanted to touch. Rachel stared at her hands for several seconds. For the first time in her life, there was no clever reply waiting, because some lessons only arrive when you finally see the pain behind your own words. She slowly stood and walked over to Noah. "I'm sorry," she said softly. Interesting moment. Not because apologies fix everything, because genuine ones are rare in families that usually protect pride first. Noah looked up at her carefully. "You didn't mean I was bad." Rachel's eyes immediately filled with tears. "No," she whispered. "Not even a little." She knelt beside his chair despite her pregnancy and gently took his hand. "Your dad leaving was an adult decision. It had nothing to do with you." My mother quietly wiped her eyes. Even my father looked away, because everyone in that room suddenly understood something painful. Children don't hear our sarcasm. They hear our meaning. Noah nodded slowly, but his voice stayed small. "I still miss him." Rachel squeezed his hand carefully. "I know." The gifts remained unopened. The music stopped playing somewhere in the background. And for the first time all afternoon, the celebration wasn't about the baby anymore. It was about an 8-year-old boy finally saying out loud the thing he'd been carrying alone for years. As the guests slowly left, the house felt different. The balloons still hung from the walls. The presents still covered the table. But nobody seemed interested in the party anymore. Rachel walked Noah to the front door herself. Before we left, she knelt beside him carefully. "I'm really sorry," she said quietly. Noah looked at her for a moment. "You didn't mean I was bad." Rachel's eyes filled immediately. "No, sweetheart, your dad leaving had nothing to do with you." He nodded, but I could still see the sadness sitting behind his eyes. Because children often accept answers while still carrying the hurt. On the drive home, Noah stayed unusually quiet in the back seat. The streetlights passed across his face one at a time. Then he finally asked, "Do you think Dad misses me?" Some questions don't have fair answers. I reached back and held his hand. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I know this, you are easy to love." He was quiet again for several minutes. Then he whispered, "I still wish he stayed." My heart broke all over again. "I know, buddy." When we got home, I tucked him into bed and pulled the blanket up to his chin. Just before falling asleep, he looked up at me and said, "At least you stayed." 3 words. That's all. And in that moment, I realized children don't measure love by who leaves. They measure it by who keeps showing up.